So this is the second in a series of interviews that I started a couple weeks ago with my friend Zach Comtois. This week, I get to talk to Ben Levin, who has a fantastically creative YouTube channel and songwriting course you should check out. Ben and I have been friends for about a third of our lives, and I always love talking to him because he has a wonderfully unique perspective on things that I think you guys will all find really interesting. So here's my conversation with Ben Levin. So I just wanted to see how it's been for you. Like, how was March, April for you?
Well, I was gonna originally from April till October, I was gonna be on tour. It was gonna be the most active touring year yet. And we had opening spots for bands that I really like, and just a bunch of great friends and people we didn't know. And we were on our way. My band Bent Knee is what I'm referring to. We were on our way to having our biggest year by a lot, and we have a great manager and booking agent. Everything is kind of set, and then obviously we're not doing the touring, and things have been rescheduled to next year. There's still a lot to be excited about if touring is a thing next year. Basically, we book things in case we can go. And then if we can't, we can't. But it's not like we're the only ones who won't be able to go on a tour next year. If we can't tour next year, no one will tour next year. But
Right.
It went from that to, normally what happens is I tour for like a third of the year and I do YouTube and my own music the rest of the year. But this time it's just YouTube the whole time. So I'm using YouTube to fulfill all of my various artistic callings, and it's become much more of a performance. Like YouTube itself is a performance, and Instagram is much more of a like art gallery approach or some sort of like Andy Warhol but with social media thing.
Sure.
The way I'm looking at it, I'm not trying to say like that I've necessarily achieved Andy Warhol level of like commentary on the state of pop culture through what I've done with just basically weird animations. But I think it's like I'm not like bothered by the fact that I'm spending so much time making YouTube and Instagram. Like I actually think that is just as legitimate as any other platform, whether it's a stage or a recording studio or a jam. I feel like every venue has its problems, and YouTube's another venue, and every venue has its nice perks. It's just like if there's good energy in the room, there's good energy in the room. I feel like my comment section is sick. Like I love the people who comment on my videos. Like I really do. Like I say it in multiple interviews now. They're the least anti-Semitic bunch of YouTube commenters you could ever ask for. They're super good to me. Even when I talk about like the most personal stuff, they're like, they like relate, and so I feel good about all that, even though I would like our plans to have worked out with touring. I consider myself very lucky this year that I had something that I was already doing that I could just be like, oh, well, now I'll just do that more. I think that was very, very lucky. Would I say this is the best or the worst time for music in general? Well, I definitely wouldn't say either. This is probably like people are probably getting screwed by record labels less now than ever because they're not like using them. They're not going out.
Yeah, good point.
There's Ticketmasters taking less of a chunk of everyone's money than ever. So, if there's ever a demand for streaming concerts, even though I think they'll be inferior, that money, as of now isn't muddied up very much. I'm pretty sure that it'll be easier for an artist to use their social media to get people to show up to a stream than it would be for Ticketmaster to just be like, we're going to stream on Zoom today. Pay us $150 and we'll give $20 to the band. Like, I don't think that's going to happen.
How did your day-to-day, like you mentioned, you already kind of did this anyway, but like, did your day-to-day switch at all? Did your present life switch at all?
Definitely. So when I was doing YouTube before this year, I took it seriously, but I saw it as like, get the video out each week and, hopefully it will teach people stuff. And I like definitely try hard, but I wouldn't say that I don't say I put everything into it. But so an average day would be a lot of things are happening. And YouTube might be one of the days of the week. Like last year, especially, I was doing a lot of animation for other people, or like making my songwriting course, or making my next albums, or like, I don't know, the other stuff I do, like scratch my head a lot, go on walks. Now I just, now it's like all day, every day is YouTube pretty much. And the idea is, how can I truly reflect this moment in a way that is so like personal and musical that it's not cliche? Because saying some broad statements like, I even said this in my last video or 2 videos ago, saying 2020 is difficult. Like, those aren't very helpful statements. I did say it to make a point about that point, but like, it was 2 videos ago. Who cares? But yeah, like, it's great if you can like show people what they have to lose, because when you feel like you have nothing left to lose, that can be a freeing thing, but it can also be a crushing thing. So like, if you're like, I had this plan to go on tour, it was going to be amazing, we were going to go on tour, I was, in this situation that was so good, and then the pandemic came and it threw the whole thing off, and now everything's gone. Like, that is all true. But then it's good to be able to take note what's left. Like, what do I still have? And it's nice if one of my videos can kind of point those things out, and ideally not make people feel like they should be happy, but more just that there's like work to be done. There's a way, and I mean, like that. I think that I'm qualified to show that to people because I've been doing creative work for my whole like adult life, and creative work is all about problem solving and working within limitations and inventing things that aren't necessarily obvious, or discovering things that aren't always there. So like, if you're trying to help people in an unprecedented situation, creative skills are some of the best things you can foster. And they often like, it's often like, if you're trying to build something very specific, you might like make a blueprint and then get the parts and then build the thing in a linear fashion. But when you don't even know what you're building, then like you could go in this direction, and even though it seems completely irrelevant to your goal of building something, it can lead you to figuring out what the thing you want to build is. And it's just like a jagged maze of options with many solutions when you don't know what you're building, as opposed to when you do. So yeah, so I feel qualified in my videos to help people see how to think through a jagged, many optioned maze, as opposed to what I'm not as good at, which is like, here's my exact plan and here's exactly where I'm headed. I'm not as qualified to tell people that,
Sure. No, I wouldn't be either. Yeah, the uncertainty.
It's awesome. That's our jam.
And then what would your plans be for, like, so say, maybe at the beginning of this, a lot of people were like, oh, let's just watch Netflix and, it'll be over by summer. And then like things kept going. And now, it's however many months in, and it's just kind of like, oh, okay, this is what like waiting feels like, and seeing like the projections of how long it may take. What are your plans for have your plans for like the long-term future changed, and what are your plans for short-term future?
Yeah, that reminds me of my favorite tweet of the pandemic, which is, I don't remember where I saw this, but someone said, I miss when pandemic was about Tiger Guy and stimulus checks.
I do too.
Yeah.
I miss free money and Tiger King.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that my plans for the future have shifted to thinking about making my next course all by myself in my room. That's a big thing because the courses have turned out to become my income stream. They're the thing that if I look forward and I'm like, Jessica and I would like to have a kid. She's 29. We're supposed to get that done in like the next 6 years. How the heck am I going to establish something where I feel like in the United States I can be a good, provide a stable economic situation, which to international viewers, I've noticed like our friend Simon the Magpie, you know, when he lives in Sweden, and when I told him that, he's like, you don't have to make a lot of money to have a kid. And he's like, oh, well, I guess actually in America you do. And, you know, I don't mean to be constantly shitting on my country, but it is my country. So if there's going to be a country I can shit on, it's the one I'm from, right? So, but this one, you're not safe to necessarily have a kid. Like, it's not guaranteed that you're safe if you don't have money, because it's like you can't necessarily take them to get their medical needs. Like, we're talking basics. Like, you might have to trade between your medical needs and theirs. And it's just like on the airplane, you have to put your oxygen mask on before you can help your kid. Well, a lot of the people have to choose one or the other, you know, and like, so when I think of what could lead me to financial stability, it's the courses. What are things that won't change in music? Well, people are going to keep learning music. I used to say people have been performing music and teaching music forever, and that's what will always be around. And now, like, the idea of performance might have to change in ways, but people will still be doing it. It's just going to change. But I think teaching is the most solid path to, like, a stable income for a musician who enjoys teaching.
Right.
And I don't even mean necessarily going through traditional routes. I just think whatever the routes end up being, it will probably be something people expect to pay for. At least that will last longer than people expecting to pay for recordings or songwriting royalties or, you know.
Right. Sure. And so as someone who was like, hey, I have this channel, oh my God, this channel is my lifeboat now.
Yeah.
Has your excitement about it changed? Has your like we're both guitar players. Like, I remember when we talked a while ago, you had mentioned the guitar players you would see on tour, especially like the metal dudes who have just chops for days, were just like, oh, well, why do I even bother? Like, or why would I join in this arms race for who could play the fastest, coolest thing when I see so-and-so is just like destroying the game.
Yeah.
Like in ways I didn't even think of approaching. Which is also how I felt watching certain Instagram things of being like, oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's not like,
Yeah, like that gypsy jazz guitarist you just posted today.
Oh, Yasho Stefan. Oh my God.
That is great. It's not just amazing, it sounds so cool. Really.
It sounds cool, and it's also, but watching it the first time, I was just like, no, that's not for another like 50 years. There's no way you're that good right now.
Yeah.
And like laughing, trying to like hang out or whatever he was doing. Like, my favorite in that scenario is, of course, Borelli, the child prodigy, who's like over it and has been over it since he was like 13. He's performed the same way since he was 13. He's just kind of like chugging along, and he's like, that sounds nice. And you can kind of see it in his face. He's like, And that's the extent of it.
Yeah.
And he plays the most gorgeous stuff. And then, but yeah.
Like that. So yeah, I'm sorry.
No. So as someone who maybe was changing their identity of what their role as guitar player is anyway, did that have to change a lot when you went over to like YouTube full time?
Yeah. Um, it changed. What changed a lot is since YouTube is my, like all my eggs are in YouTube right now. It makes it so that the algorithm is a serious issue in with my mental health. So I have view virus. So it's not that I'm getting like more competitive or concerned about like how good I am compared to other creators, or like if I have got the skills it needs to be like a top channel. Because I honestly truly believe my videos are one of a kind, like unique, special. It's a real special channel. I think my channel is great. And I don't have like any insecurities actually about the content. But what really makes me sick is the view virus, where I'll put out my best video as far as I can tell, and it performs worse, and I'm pretty sure it's the thumbnail or the title that's just not quite right, and then I'm like trying to solve it like it's this puzzle I could solve. But you know, there's so many levels of dissonance to that. For one, it's like you can't solve it. Two, you have to look long term. You can't like take all this anecdotal information of how one video does and how another video does and try to create a theory about the algorithm based on the performance of a couple videos. Like, there's so much room for coincidence. There's so many factors you can't factor in. So trying to be like, this is what the algorithm likes now is like kind of a dead end if you're talking short term. Maybe you could figure that out over the course of a year. And then
Right.
and then the third level of dissonance is that since when is playing to a room of 100 people nothing? Since when is 100 people watching your video nothing? Since when is 10,000 people watching your video nothing? And that's the real poison, is when we start to dehumanize our audience and see them as a good audience is a large audience, a bad audience is a small audience, and then also skew our idea of big and small so that the only thing that's big is biggest, and the only thing that's like everything else is small.
Right.
And like so what happens to me is, and this really happened, and it was very bad, and I quickly like started working on not being like this. But I had a video that's very personal. I read a comment that was very personal, very moving, and I immediately hit refresh on the YouTube app to check the views. And I thought about the comment less time than it took to read it. I was zoned out halfway through it, and I was looking at, did my views improve on this video? And it made me like, that was like a moment where I was like kind of appalled at my own thoughts. And so then I had like an Instagram meltdown, because I like to just be like, I mean, I have faith that I won't get canceled, but like it's definitely like a dangerous path to just be like, I want to be like totally naked on social media, as much as like, not literally. I'm not talking about my body. I'm talking about like my like all my fears and all my flaws and everything. I want all of it out, because I do feel like that makes it first of all feel better to be on social media, as if you don't have a facade. Or, well, you inevitably have a facade. You can't avoid it. But if your facade is not very thick, or whatever a facade is, whatever what is a facade? Like a window cover? I don't know. It doesn't matter, I guess. It's some object in the world. But yeah, like I want people to look at my meltdown and kind of understand where I'm coming from, rather than be like, holy shit, this guy's having a meltdown and he must have snapped. I want them to be like, oh, Ben's snapping again. He snaps. This is what makes him snap. And I shouldn't do this because it hurts. Like, he suffers from it, so I'm not going to suffer from it like that. You know, like I get messages when I have a meltdown from people who are like, yep, I have the same thing with my channel. And I think like every person on social media who's trying to make art through it or trying to make a living through it, either one, it's a lot of pressure. You see your work next to its value. It's always there, next to the views, there, next to the subscribers, there, next to the likes. And we like numbers. We like objective stuff. We want life to be objective. We want life to be simple. So we're very negatively skewed to it be kind of like to the same degree as sexual attraction, like to the most core instinctive like passions care about the numbers. I think it's like we're geared to care about the numbers the same way we're geared to become aroused when we see someone we're attracted to. Uncontrollable is what I mean.
Yeah.
So what do you do about something like that? You obviously can't change who you're attracted to, and I think like I can't prove that it's as big of a thing, but I think it is because it's like chemical. It's just like more is more, less is less. That's like such a human thing. It takes so much work to. Maybe it is possible to get past it, so it's not a perfect analogy, but it seems like pretty much wired in.
I think you could probably get past it when you're absolutely crushing it, which is probably also the same in both scenarios. When you're incredibly attractive to everyone you'd ever want to be attracted to, you're like, well, like,
looks aren't everything.
Come around.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks aren't. I'm a good-looking millionaire. Looks and money aren't everything.
I don't care about money. Money's
like,
a force. It just kind of flows through me.